I think it's true, you know. I think that many of us here this morning even have a way at the back of our hearts somewhere, a kind of fear. A fear of the oblivion, which we feel will face us at the end of this life. And we do often, as he says, conjure up enemies because we are not at peace with ourselves. And I think many of us in our day are not at peace with ourselves, and we do have a fear of an oblivion. And loved ones, I just felt God prompting me very strongly this morning to make it plain just once more, very clearly, instead of preaching the sermon that I'd prepared, to make it clear very plainly to each of us why we feel like that. If there is some fear in us, or if there's some sense in which we're not at peace with ourselves today, right now, deep down where we live, then I want to point out to you once more why that is. This dear book is very clear, you know. It says the basic reason why many of us have a kind of knot just about there, or sometimes it's there, sometimes it's there, sometimes it's there, but it's a knot in our stomachs, or a tension, or a strain inside, or an apprehension, or an angst, is because we're not settled with our God. We're not settled with our Creator. We haven't settled accounts with Him. And we are all in the situation that this book describes. This Bible says that there isn't one of us here who is good enough to be God's friend. There isn't one of us who is good enough in our own lives to be at home with God. There isn't one of us here that God could actually receive to Himself at the end of this life. There isn't one of us who is good enough for that. Because all of us here, every one of us, have sinned and we've fallen far short of His glory. We've fallen short of what He meant us to be. And we're aware of that. Deep down, you and I are conscious of that. After we've engaged in all the arguments about situation ethics, after we've justified jumping into bed with this woman or into bed with that man, after we've justified trying the marijuana or trying the heroin or trying the cocaine, after we've justified our little bits of dishonesty, our little bits of lies, our little bits of stealing, after we've tried to rationalize all those things away, you can't get away from what you are. You have inside you a gyro compass that is absolutely reliable. It keeps pointing one way. And it keeps pointing back to the one that made you. And it keeps telling you through your conscience that that's not right. And even if you'd never read this book, even if you'd never had anybody who told you stealing was wrong or dishonesty was wrong or extramarital sex is wrong or dirty thoughts are wrong, there's inside you a conscience that makes you uneasy with what you are and with what you're doing. And loved ones, that's the heart of that sense of not being at peace with yourself inside. That's what causes that feeling of strain deep down. I mean, we're running around wildly talking to all kinds of counselors. Oh, if I could settle my career, if I could settle my profession, or if I could settle this relationship with my girl, or this relationship with my guy, or this relationship with my parents, or this relationship with a grandmother, or with my pet dog, or with the sunshine, or with my vacation. It's madness. That's not the problem. All those things are bluff. They're bluff. We've all had trouble with our pet dogs. We've all had trouble with our parents. We've all been offended. We've all had complexes. But that's not what causes the strain. What causes the strain is we're not right with the Creator who made us, And this thing inside, this conscience that is even more real than your heart, that keeps you alive, this conscience keeps making you aware of that and makes you feel you're not at home, either in this world, nor will you be at home with the new world that will exist after this one. And that you have sinned, and you've fallen short of God's glory, and there's no way in which He can be at home with you, and actually your own experience confirms that, because you haven't spoken to God for years, and you haven't heard Him speak to you for years. And every time you hear God being talked about, and other people mentioning how He talks to them, you know it's kind of like another nail in your own casket. It convinces you, of course I know I'm not right with God. Of course I have no relationship with God. I've never heard Him talk. I don't know what kind of thing He wants me to do.